Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, we have a special edition, 3 segments with the V-Team. Also, the V-Team will take a look at prison reform in Alabama. And Mike Hubbard's attorney doesn't like the judge's decision in the Moore case. Crossing the bar or crossing the line. We've got a lot more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined this Sunday by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Bonjour.
It's good to be here.
The French Republican over here. You know, I just hate
He's got on a
that.
beautiful tie, little Frenchy look.
No.
That's the way I feel about the French Republican thing. But you do have a lovely tie on, Jack.
Thanks, 3 more payments.
Last week, Governor Bentley announced a new task force for prison reform. Our prisons are seemingly falling apart around us. They're at 190% of capacity. Is this going to work, Barron? Do we have a hope of getting prison reform in Alabama?
Well, we don't have any money. I mean, without money, you don't build prisons. If there's some way we could get an influx of cash, then yeah, it would work. I mean, we do need to build prisons. We do need to expand capacity. The money's just not there.
Some states do bond issues to build prisons, but I don't think that would fly here. What do you think, Jack?
It's not politically popular to say you want to help prisons, but if people, I think basically people are very compassionate. If they saw the conditions in prisons in Alabama, I think they would be more willing to come off the money a little bit because it's pretty rough stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, the incarceration rates are so high, and you do have these centers in these counties where they can go do work things and go to drug clinics and that sort of thing to ease some of the overcrowdingness. But we tried the privatization 8 or 10 years ago, and then there were some problems with that. Now, I also know that the ACLU is sneaking around here and trying to make sure that the prisoners and the inmates are all treated fairly, and they're going to have their nose in the tent.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line, hey, why don't we sign a compact with the Indians and we can get a lot of revenue in the state of Alabama to take care of Medicare and corrections both.
We could build a whole bunch of prisons. You know, it's interesting. We talked to a woman that said she was abused at one of the prisons, and we invited her to talk to us on the record. She wouldn't do it.
Scared.
We've talked with a lot of these folks over the years, and some of them, there's real problems there. Some of it kind of made up. The con is in convict, But,
Well, yeah, and you don't have to get to an individual story to know we're at 193% capacity.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you got 2 people for every bed the system was designed to handle. That leads to abuse, overcrowding,
right.
and lack of resources to deal with it.
Well, and they're understaffed, totally understaffed.
But I'm going to go back to this again. Since 1995, when I came back and worked in the administration of Bob James, that was a boiling pot. And here we are at 2014, it's still a boiling pot. Our leadership in the state, House, Senate, Governor's office, they have got to come up with a way to handle this problem. We fix everything else, we do everything else to recruit business and everything else. We've got to come up with some way to fix these 2 agencies.
Well, the liberal side of me says, if you want prison to be reformatory, they're not. If you want them to be punitive, they are.
Yeah.
But some of these people, there's no hope for rehabilitating them because of the conditions in the prison.
Well, and most people in Alabama say, lock them up, throw away the key. We're going to have to change subjects here, and that's to the District 6 congressional race. You got...
Which feels like a prison.
Yeah, somebody.
The Battle of the Dullards.
The Battle of the Dullards. Paul DeMarco, very nice guy.
It's a lifeless race.
Gary Palmer. It's not a very exciting race for you, is it, Jack?
Well, not really. I mean, I like both guys. I know them both, and I like them. But you know, Gary makes campaigning look painful, and to me, Paul's not very animated either. But I mean, it'll be a very spirited race at some point. And you have Will Brook coming out for Gary Palmer, which I thought was interesting.
Well, and you also had Rick Santorum, former U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania and presidential nominee, coming out supporting Gary Palmer. But if I'm a betting woman, I'm going to bet on Paul DeMarco. I like Paul. I think he is the guy that's more polished. He will be a great congressman for the state of Alabama because he knows how to deal with people, get along with people. He can talk to the average Alabaman, and he's the one I put.
Well, and I think his youth plays in his favor because Congress is a young person's game.
Barron
really
has an opinion about this.
You have an opinion about youth? Or?
Yeah, I do. I think you put old people in Congress so they don't stay forever. If you've got a 65-year-old and a 45-year-old and they have equal qualities, put the 65-year-old in there, and 10 years later you get a new one. Otherwise, you got one for 30 years.
I know, but you know what? I think Paul DeMarco, he's got some good ideas, and I said, you know, he knows
I'm not
the
arguing
issues
with
that
you.
are facing.
They're both fine candidates. They're both Republicans. There's no argument that one of them's a closeted liberal French Republican. Okay, they're both fine guys. But everybody sits around and says, well, we want good, clean elections. We want good, clean elections. No negativity. Well, guess what? You got one. It's the most boring election I've ever seen.
Yeah, but you've got
the battle of the white men.
Okay, y'all,
gentlemen.
Think about what they've done. I mean, Mr. Palmer, Gary Palmer, has run a conservative far-right think tank and has raised money. And
a credible one at that.
I know, but that's basically like being a lobbyist for one industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Whereas
you should
DeMarco
know.
has been a lawyer. His wife is also professional. I mean, he's been down here in the Alabama House of Representatives, you know, serving the people and knows how to do that. It is hard
All right,
to
we
take
know
a
where you
lobbyist.
are, Claire.
We think you're on.
Paul has your vote.
He's got
I don't
your
vote in the district. I don't vote in the district.
Well, it hasn't stopped a lot of other people.
Let's switch over to something that is not a laughing matter, and that's Common Core. You know, the Common Core candidates did not win the day in the primary elections, and it looks like they may not win the day anytime soon. Yet, the RNC, the ALGOP, every real conservative that you talk to is against Common Core.
But not Del Marcia, not Mike Hubbard.
That's right.
And not the Business Council of Alabama.
It's the BCA is where it starts. And look, the BCA has an interest they want to protect, which is the business community that seems, for whatever reason, to want this Common Core issue in the state of Alabama.
Because the U.S. Chamber, for one.
Everybody else opposes it on the Republican side.
Well,
Everybody.
That's because Mr. Canary's pushing it because of his connections to the U.S. Chamber.
When people read the book, it's perfectly normal. I've
Yeah.
seen some pictures there that I've never seen in person.
Well, Becky Garrettson read it in a meeting of the House and Senate, and they shut her down because of the vulgarity of the
it's
language.
deplorable. I've got 3 young children. I wouldn't want them to read it.
Yeah.
You know, this No Child Left Behind was a failure. Anytime the federal government gets involved, it generally is a failure.
And I'll say this on Common Core. A lot of the candidates are running around saying, well, we'll just leave it up to the State Board of Education. Well, guess what? The State Board of Education brought us Common Core. If that's your answer, you are a de facto pro-Common Core candidate, period. You can say you're against it, but if you're going to leave it up to the organization
because
that
you're
brought it
funded
to
by
us,
the Business Council of Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. But
I think most of these candidates, they don't even really know what
they don't know what they're talking about.
They're just doing whatever whoever elected people or supporters tell them to do. So many of them, it's just sad.
We're going to have to get out of here. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more analysis. Stay tuned.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
But then you ain't no friend of mine.
I teach. I touch the future. I am AEA.
I keep the school clean every day for your children. I am AEA.
Congratulations on your scholarship. I help children make choices for college and careers. I am AEA.
We are AEA.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek Wetumpka, the perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, The finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs of autism.
So let me get right to the point. I don't pop my cork for every guy I see. Hey, big spender, spending time with you.
Welcome back to the Voice of Alabama Politics. This week we did a story at APR on how much money Republicans spent to retain the House. $12 million was spent just in the primary alone. That's a whole lot of money, isn't it, Claire?
Hey, big spenders, yes it is. If I could sing, I would.
It's just the amount they spent per candidate, Barron, was really amazing.
Yeah, you get down to some of the individual races and you realize how much money was spent per vote received by that candidate. $300+ for Mike Hubbard.
Right.
$100 and something for Jack Williams, $160 or whatever for Jack Williams. Birmingham Jack Williams.
Yeah.
How much did Jack Williams spend total? I mean, it's like
I don't remember.
300 and something thousand for a House race?
Yeah.
To retain
Well, I
a
mean,
House
Mike
seat.
Hubbard spent $800, almost $900,000.
$300 on an Alabama state legislative race.
For an incumbent speaker
Is
in a
this like
district.
the old Hitchcock, the man who knew too much?
I guess.
I mean, why would you protect somebody? He's not all that great anyway.
Well, I don't know, but evidently he raised and spent a lot of money. I thought it was
What
interesting.
about legal? And then they're not even talking about the money he raised that was spent on legal
Oh,
fees.
$150,000.
And then money that's been kicked back to his company.
Right. That he's kicked back almost $300,000.
To clarify, you've
to
switched
his own.
from Jack Williams
Yeah,
to
you're
Hubbard.
talking about
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse
Hubbard
thank you,
kicked back
thank you.
about $300,000.
We're not aware of any
to his
legal
own.
fees or owned company
Yeah,
Jack Williams.
Jack is not in that
But he
baby.
was the second biggest spender per vote getter in the House.
Yeah.
And then the third one was, I don't remember who the third one was, but it was a big spender. You know what was interesting, though, Jack, is that some of the insurgent conservative candidates that unseated incumbents, they spent less.
Oh, yeah. Like Connie Rose spent a lot less than Bill Roberts.
Bill
and
Roberts, yeah.
beat him pretty soundly. Tim Wadsworth spent considerably less than Bond.
Yeah.
And I think what you find is there were the examples of the Wadsworth, the Rose, and of the world where they were able to spend less and win the seat. But most of those races, what I saw where you lined them up side by side, the incumbent candidate, the Marsh-Hubbard 2014 back candidate, spent usually 4, 8, sometimes 10 or 12 times as much per vote as the other guy. Well, yeah, you know, no wonder you win 55.
And like Paul Sanford didn't spend much money in his campaign at all. I mean, he like Mike was ahead in the polls the whole time, and he didn't go and waste a bunch of money. Take my hat off to him for that.
You know, the second biggest spender, really, third biggest spender, I just thought of it was the guy who ran against.
Barrymore?
No, he ran against Mike Hubbard.
Sandy Toomer.
Sandy Toomer.
Well,
he spent
he's
a lot
trying to
of
keep
money.
up with the guy spending $1 million.
Yeah, well, Mike outspent him 2-1 already.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of big spenders, our universities are giving huge bonuses to their top tier executives. Meanwhile, they're raising the tuitions around the state.
That's nothing new and different. They've been giving themselves bonuses for years.
And raising the tuition rates as well,
correct.
right?
Yes.
Some of those guys, their base salary is $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Then they get bonuses on top of that. I've never understood the university
public
model.
institutions. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've
to
never
me, it's a
understood
little
it.
bit egregious. Here I am, a big football fan, and that of Auburn, and of course you're Alabama. We're divided here. But I mean, you go look at the coaches' salaries at these universities.
Yeah, but those are not public money usually for coaches.
Well, at least coaches are bringing in revenue. I mean,
Yeah,
big
bunch.
revenue, but
A bunch.
Yeah, but these institutions, these guys are becoming fat cats.
Well,
off their
and
salaries.
college is becoming unaffordable for most people.
Right.
Yeah.
And without strapping yourself to tens of thousands, sometimes 6 figures worth of debt to get a degree in English or accounting or something where you're not going to go make $300,000 a year and turn around and be able to pay it off.
Yeah, and they, you know, and Auburn University and University of Alabama, these are state institutions and land-grant colleges that are for kids in the state of Alabama to go to. And, you know, of course, their big deal is they're recruiting out-of-state students all the time. There's more money there.
Well, it just was one of those reports that made you shake your head and go, oh, my God, they're getting $3 million bonuses handed out and all that, and their tuitions are raising you. No wonder we have problems with kids going to college and graduating.
Well, and then it comes right out of the public
Well, and you got up in
education
Tennessee, and we're competing against other states. Georgia has the Hope Scholarship. Up in Tennessee now, they just passed a law that the first 2 years of your college tuition is paid for.
Wow.
If you graduate from a high school in Tennessee and you got good grades, decent grades, not even great grades, you can go to community college for free.
Wow.
Everybody.
Community college or major university?
Well, community college.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
that's
first
a great
2 years,
start towards getting into a university.
No debt when you leave the first 2 years.
That's
just
amazing.
wonderful.
That's amazing. Well, we ought to look at stuff like that. We borrow all these bad ideas from other states. We don't get their good ideas, I guess. Well, of course, the lottery is how a lot of people want to handle that. And Bentley has said that he wants to open it up to the folks to vote on a lottery or vote on gambling. But how are you going to get anybody in the legislature to sponsor a bill like that?
Well, I think the way you do it is, there's two ways. First is point to the polling that over 70, 75, sometimes some polls show 80% of people support the idea that the public at least be able to vote on a lottery. The last time we voted on one was almost a complete generation ago, 15 years ago. You know, nobody in this state under the age of 33 has voted on a lottery, period. It was a long time ago. The second way you do it is you show people that the budget is in a total disastrous free fall. And there is a way to solve this that would be very popular among the population. If 75% of the people agree with something that's going to bring in additional revenue, why not give it a shot?
Yeah, well, you know, giving our money to kids in Georgia and
it's
Florida
a volunteer
and Tennessee.
tax. If you want to pay the tax, you pay it. If you don't, you don't.
If you don't want to gamble, you don't gamble.
Right.
Well, that goes back to what Claire said before about making a compact with the PCI. I mean, the Port Creek told me personally, you know, tell the governor, we'll be happy to give him 20% of everything we make if they'll grant, you know, just work with us a little bit.
I hope those figures, and you're right on the record on this.
Well, I don't know if they're right. You know,
depends on what he's given to what governor.
But in all
well, we
sincerity,
know that they helped out Bob Riley, but not the PCI. It was the ones across the river here.
But I mean, you know, it is something that really has got to be looked at across the board. And I mean, you know, you take, like you're talking about, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, everybody's got this. And here we're bringing in all this economic development and everything else. And the one biggest factor that people look at these states is education.
Yeah. Well, you know, going back to the PCI and education, if you are a member of that tribe, your college is paid for. That's part of your, you know, birthright. You go to college, any college, Harvard, Duke, you can go to Mississippi State.
Now, how can I clarify one of three of my children have some Indian
I don't know how
well,
you
can
do
ask
that.
Barry Moore's wife. She can tell you.
Oh, man, we got about 30 seconds here. But really, and if you want to get a doctorate or go to medical school or anything like that, they pay that too as long as you're willing to come back and work for the tribe. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we got to get out of here. We're going to have one more segment. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics, where we tell it like it is.
The V is sponsored by MediaWorks Communication Video Production Services for all your video production needs.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka, the perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, the finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
I make sure to get your kids to school and home safe every day. I am AEA.
I make sure your child receives a healthy meal each day. I am AEA.
Thank you, AEA, for protecting our public schools and our futures. We are AEA.
Welcome back to the Voice of Alabama Politics. Barron, this couple weeks, last week it was, the judge in the Barry Moore case came down for the state in every way, didn't he? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm kind of missing Charlana here because she's usually the resident lawyer who gets to break down all the boring
Yeah,
stuff.
but you're a lawyer. You can break it down for us.
The judge ruled in favor of the state and dismissed pretty much every one of the arguments Bill Baxley made on behalf of Barry Moore. They wasn't even close. I mean, he didn't say, hey, we have close issues here. There was some discussion about whether Barry Moore would try to appeal this in the midst of the trial. Well, you really, in order to do that, have to have the cooperation of the judge. There's nothing in that order that leads me as a lawyer or anybody else I've talked to that's a lawyer to believe the judge is anywhere close certifying any of these questions for appeal in the middle of the proceedings. The case is set for trial in September, and it looks like it's going to try.
Well, it's a big deal, isn't it, Claire?
It is a big deal, and having worked in the AG's office, I think it is, and like you mentioned, having the support of a judge. And I don't know Judge Walker, but from what I hear from everybody throughout the state, he's by the books, by the records, no nonsense, doesn't play politics. He just rules as a judge.
Well, he actually added some case law into the argument that Matt Hart and Van Davis and them made. I mean, he actually solidified that. I think that says something, doesn't it, Jack?
It does. I think it says that that this is going to be a serious trial.
Well, I don't think he was trying to make a political statement.
No.
Judge Walker's a serious judge.
That's what I've heard from everybody.
And I don't think, I think he's going to rule by, I don't know him, but I've just heard his reputation.
Right.
He's very serious and very sober, and he has indicated in that order to me that he's not going to pay attention to any of this stuff going on.
Right.
And he's just going to rule with what he sees.
No, that's what I saw. He was setting up a firewall.
Yeah, protection.
If you say.
He better set up more protection than just a firewall then.
Well, Mark White, who supposedly doesn't have a dog in the Barry Moore case, came out and basically dissed the judge and said, I don't agree with what he said.
Well, he's running a PR. He's running a legal PR campaign for his client, Mike Hubbard, the speaker.
Yeah, but Mike's not involved in this, right?
Well, that's what they say. But Mr. Moore is one of his stalwart lieutenants, one of his top 7 in the 2010 election.
I think it's clear by looking at everything that's been going on, by looking at every legal proceeding that's gone on up to date, that Mike Hubbard has nothing to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Easter Bunny does not lay eggs, right? Okay.
And it's 42 degrees outside on Sunday morning on June
the Buddy Mitchell ad with the Auburn contracts for the sports broadcasting. Hubbard never denied that what Buddy Mitchell said was true.
That he rigged the bid.
But he attacked Buddy Mitchell. He's a discredited, disgraced former lobbyist. But he never said Buddy Mitchell lied about whether or not he twisted arms to get a contract.
I have to say, I was shocked.
Then the speaker was smart because you know what? He didn't want to be caught lying under oath.
Right.
He knows what Buddy said is correct, so he wants to discredit Buddy. But, if I push back, you put Mike and Buddy in the same pocket of slush and hogwash and throw them out. They're the same.
Well, I think.
Well, if one's a crook, another one's a crook. They were crooks together.
They were crooks together in that instant. But Buddy Mitchell is a fine guy.
But Buddy is a lot more contrite, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so. Buddy told me, he said, listen, I'm doing this for my grandkids and because I love Auburn. But listen, he's taking some heat. What really irritated me?
But he took political pressure heat by a board of trustees 10 years ago and gave Mike Hubbard what he wanted to give him.
I've talked to a couple of those folks, and they told me that Mike actually came to them in tears. Crying. And so Mike is a crybaby, and his lawyer's a whiny baby. Is that what we're saying here? That's kind of the deal.
We'll see.
I think yes. Well, Mark White put a nice spin on it. We've got some runoffs. There's going to be lots of spinning on that. What are some of the top races we need to stay tuned to?
We have a big Senate race going on in Natal, Gilmore, Chilton, and Tallapoosa County and Coosa with Harris Garner and Clyde Chambliss. Harris was distant second place, but I think he's got some issues on his side that I think when they start debating and being seen more in public and people focus, I think you'll see those numbers change considerably.
Garner, he's against Common Core, right? He's not a Common Core.
Yeah, he's got an ad on the air right now. I don't know if you've heard it or seen it, but he states very clearly the first thing he'll do in office is file a bill to repeal Common Core. I mean,
So
he's been
that's
very
gonna
clear
put-
about that the whole time.
That's going to put the whole Riley gang and Hubbard gang against
They've
him.
been against him all the time anyway.
They're already
so.
against him. I don't
Oh,
think that's
okay.
going to
But
make
You
a
know
lot
what,
of
and that's not my district, but I remember very early on, I thought something smart that he did. He said he wouldn't take his salary as a senator, and I would
Right.
think that that would resonate among voters in that particular district in Elmore and Otauga County.
Well, Shell Nutt's an engineer, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say up in Scott Beach.
Chambliss is it. That Shell Nutt's a big run,
Right,
too,
but you
isn't it?
go to Scott Beach
that's
in the
a
former
big
Senate
race
seat.
going
There's
on
a
in-
big seat up there in the runoff between, I believe, King and Shell Nut. So
Brett
those are the
King
two.
And all the Riley crowd, the Hubbard crowd, seems to be behind Shell Nut. And
What's the deal with Shell Nut?
Yeah,
Do
but
we
that's
know
interesting
anything about
because
him?
Shell Nut is also close to Slade Blackwell, and I don't always put Slade Blackwell in the corner with all the Rileyites.
Well, Slade Blackwell doesn't need him. I mean, he can
No.
be his own man anytime.
you've
he
got
wants
another
to be.
Corey Harbison versus Mac Buttram in the northwest part of Alabama.
In Coleman area, and then
Yeah.
you have one Timothy Melson and Chris Seibert up in Tammy Iron's old seat.
Oh, yeah, that's the Senate seat.
And then you got Mark Cahey's seat down there with Doleve and
Albritton.
Albritton. I mean, there are good races all over the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, and that was interesting. And of course, our show doesn't view, and we view everywhere in the state but in Mobile, but that's been an interesting thing with Doleve and Albritton.
The best part of that race is the top spender in that race to date has spent $31,000.
Wow.
Amazing. You
Wow,
know why?
that's amazing.
2014 stayed out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2014
so-
stayed out of it, and
so
they kept the cost of poker
You
down.
don't have the,
But now,
the
aren't they
big
jumping
Riley
in now?
Hubbard
I mean,
Marsh
they,
gang.
2014 just spent a boatload of money to protect these seats.
Don't you think it's just almost shameful that a former governor is running a PAC to get his own handpicked
No,
people
it's
in
not,
there?
that's not the shameful part. The shameful part is the tactics the former governor's PAC has used, which involve defamation, libel, slander, just the most disgusting attack ads you've ever seen, Ron, that have his name on them.
Yeah.
That aren't
That's
that just
disgusting.
really are not truthful.
That is
I
not
mean,
statesmanlike
Well,
at all.
you know.
Well, he's put it, sadly enough, you know, I worked with Governor Riley, liked him and everything else, but unfortunately doing this, he has put his statesman, has gone out the window.
I mean,
there's no statesman to be had.
There was a race up in Etowah and St. Clair County where one of the candidates had a domestic problem with his wife, and they brought it out in the campaign. I mean, called him a wife beater. I mean, it's just,
Not only that, they showed a picture of his wife with a sprained wrist.
But that
from
wasn't
a fall
from a
that
fall.
had nothing to do with her
Yeah,
husband, and
yeah,
they said
that's-
that was where he had beat his wife.
Well, maybe that's
Well-
like Riley's motorcycle accident up in Alaska.
Well, there was no sprained
staged.
wrist involved in that.
Well, the bottom line is this campaigning, when you start pulling out those personal tactics, this has gotten below the belt. I mean,
Yeah.
it really has.
And for a routine political consultant to do it, fine. You know, we're sleazy people, I guess. For
Speak
a
for
former
yourself.
governor to
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
You're not sleazy to me. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us every Sunday on your local ABC stations and every day at alreporter.com. Thank you for watching.